There's a new report out from the AFL-CIO on job-related deaths and injuries in America. And the extent of the problem is way above and beyond anything most people ever imagined, including myself. I mean, I think we've covered these numbers loosely before, or similar numbers before, when there's been some sort of workplace disaster that's connected to deregulation. But when I give you the total picture here and really put it in perspective, I mean, you're going to realize just what we're dealing with. So when it comes to injury, quote, there were a reported 3.8 million injuries and illnesses related to work in the year 2012. But due to limitations in the current injury reporting system and widespread underreporting of workplace injuries, this number underestimates the problem. The real number is probably 2 to 3 times bigger, somewhere between 7.6 million and 11.4 million. So let's go with the more conservative number. 7.6 million injuries and illnesses related to work in the United States of America. Now I ask you, is that a number that you would have normally thought would go hand in hand with the United States of America, or is that something you'd think would be more in a developing country, a place like China, for example? Maybe I'm naive, but I didn't think that would be the case in the United States of America, even given our deregulation and our lack of, strong labor laws, etc., etc. So when it comes to workers killed on the job, numbers are out of this world. So first, let me specify, we're talking about deaths on the job from breathing in hazardous chemicals, deaths from workplace explosions like we've covered on the show, from construction site accidents. So things that generally relate to a lack of rules and regulations that could possibly, with, a better system, that we could have avoided. So what are we looking at here? Quote, in 2012, 4,628 workers were killed on the job, which made an average of 13 deaths a day. An estimated additional 50,000 workers died from occupational diseases, or an average of 137 deaths a day. So that means that all told, an estimated 150 workers died each day last year due to working conditions. 150 people die every single day in the United States of America because of work or work-related issues. 150 people a day. Now let's stop and reflect on that. You need to understand something. The number of people that die from terrorism is way less than that. The number of people that die from terrorism in the U.S., I mean, we're talking about likely less than 100 people every single year. In fact, probably way less than 100 people every single year. And keep in mind, I'm talking about all kinds of terrorism. So, yes, Islamic terrorism, but also right-wing terrorism, which is more pervasive right now. So people affiliated with the Sovereign Citizens Movement, right-wing militias, KKK acts, abortion clinic bombings, all these things. We're talking so much less. But put terrorism aside. Forget terrorism. More people are dying from work or work-related illnesses than people dying even from gun violence in the United States of America. That should absolutely fucking blow your mind, man. That should blow your mind. I don't have the numbers in front of me when it comes to, and I unfortunately don't know this from previous stories, when it comes to alcohol-related deaths or when it comes to car accidents and stuff like that too. But we have to at least be in the ballpark. But how much attention is given? How many politicians have you heard give speeches where they talk about too many people are dying and too many people are getting sick from the state of our workplaces? So we need to fix this. We need to do it. This is a public health crisis. People go crazy about, oh my God, crack, epidemic of crack in the inner city. Oh my God, crystal meth, the scourge of crystal meth. We need to ban sales of this particular cold medicine or whatever, that the silly ideas they come up with to try to cut back on stuff like that. But how many people are dying from that compared to this? This is way more, man, way more. But this doesn't get any attention paid to it. Imagine if in one terrorist attack in the United States, 50,000 people died. we would declare war on the world, even our allies. We would be so pissed off. We're like, fuck it, we're invading Jordan, Kazakhstan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Britain, France, fuck you, Australia, what now, son? We're coming after you, you punk bitches. If 50,000 people died in one terrorist attack in the U.S., we would fucking invade ourselves. We would invade ourselves. It would be World War III, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 12. But when it's 50,000 people that die from work-related illnesses and just working conditions, it's... Nobody says anything. Now, understand something. Am I pulling like the uber liberal card of like, bro, the U.S. is worse than any place ever in the world? Of course I'm not saying that. In fact, if you look at it as a percentage compared to other places in the world, I'm sure we do worse than the other modern industrial nations, but we're still above and beyond third world nations, second world nations. That's not anything to brag about, but would you rather live in the U.S. or India when it comes to work deaths and work-related deaths? Let's not kid ourselves. Of course, you'd rather live in the U.S. But is that my question is that the kind of standard we want to have? It's like, oh, well, at least we're better than India. What the fuck is that? What happened to we're number one? The conservatives always want to say that we're number one in the world. We're not anywhere close to number one. Now, to try to broaden this out a little bit and appeal to fiscal conservatives, the estimated cost of all job injuries and illnesses from medical expenses and lost productivity comes to somewhere between, quote, $250 billion and $350 billion a year. So if you're a fiscal conservative, you should be all over this. You should be pro new regulations and new rules and new labor laws if you actually are a fiscal conservative. Because if you're a fiscal conservative, you would realize that doing those things would increase our GDP by $250 billion to $350 billion a year. Or our tax revenue. Or, who knows, both, a mix. It just says that the estimated cost of the job injuries and illnesses is between $250 billion and $350 billion. So either way you slice it or dice it, we'd be saving between $250 and $350 billion. And what may be the scariest part of all is that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, which is the agency responsible for inspections and regulations, they have a grand total of only 1,955 inspectors to visit the 8 million workplaces under its purview. 1,955 people to visit 8 million places. In other words, it's fucking impossible. Which means that, quote, a workplace will only see a federal inspector once every 139 years on average, and a state one every 79 years. So what we have in the U.S. is the Ayn Rand wet dream of rugged, laissez-faire, free market, unfettered capitalism where there's no regulation, and what happens as a result? 50,000 people are dying. God, we need to stop with this market anarchy. We need to increase the funding to all of the different agencies that do the inspections and do the regulations and enforce them, and we need to pass new and better updated regulations. We need to at least try to limit this number in half. This is a fucking embarrassment. And even if we limit it in half, what, we're going to accept 25,000 people dying because of work? Really? How absurd is that? No, what we need to do is try to get rid of that number and eliminate it. But nobody even is bothering to discuss it. So I'm not going to hold my breath for that. But this is some of the most depressing news that I've read in a while, and as you guys know, I read a lot of news on a daily basis. This is way out of bounds and way out of line.